Welcome to Cause Before Symptom, uncovering the real cabal and spiritual forces that are controlling the world. And now, here is your host, James Carner.
Welcome to Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Today is April 19th, 2026, and tonight is our Part 3 narration of Breath War, the book that I wrote about a year ago. And without further ado, let's get into it. The Cosmic Christ Model and Solar Mythos. At the summit of the adversary's breath war architecture stands the Cosmic Christ Model, which functions as one of his most dangerous and deceptive courtroom bypass systems. The Cosmic Christ strips away the legal personhood of Jesus Christ as a historical, incarnated registry issuance and replaces him with a universal energy principle, an impersonal astral force that governs existence through breath evolution and cosmic law rather than legal substitution and registry restoration. This model serves as the adversary's final attempt to fully erase the courtroom from human consciousness while convincing the world that it remains deeply spiritual. Through this framework, the person of Christ is no longer seen as the lamb issued into flesh under legal breath issuance, but merely as one symbolic expression of an eternal solar archetype, one iteration among many of a cosmic cycle that plays out through various solar deities across history. Jesus becomes interchangeable with Osiris, Horus, Tammuz, that's what I was reading a little ahead of myself, Horus, Tammuz, Osiris, Mithras, and others. His birth is explained as the rebirth of the sun at winter solstice, his death and resurrection as the natural dying and rising of seasons, crops, and celestial patterns. Under this inversion, registry law, sin, substitution, blood covering, and courtroom petition are all dissolved into cosmic mechanics. The legal purpose of this system is precise. By redefining Christ as a solar principle rather than a literal person-issued breath, the adversary removes the entire legal foundation of registry restoration. Sin is no longer seen as a breath violation requiring blood payment, but as an energetic imbalance requiring vibrational realignment. Judgment is no longer courtroom sentencing, but becomes a self-regulating karmic process managed by ascended masters and cosmic hierarchies. Breath restoration occurs not through the lamb's blood, but through ascension, frequency mastery, and personal evolution. The entire registry becomes unnecessary. Cosmic law replaces heaven's courtroom. This system allows humanity to voluntarily disqualify itself from registry restoration by aligning with the Cosmic Christ model. It gives the adversary the legal right to petition heaven, stating that humanity has rejected registry law, chosen cosmic self-governance, and surrendered breath governance into his jurisdiction. This allows breath fragmentation to continue indefinitely across reincarnations, hybridizations, and synthetic breath systems without triggering the final breath audit. Humanity remains locked in perpetual breath trafficking under the illusion of spiritual advancement. The psychological seduction of the Cosmic Christ is immense. It appeals to intellectual pride, offering spiritual evolution without repentance. It eliminates the offense of the cross and offers humanity the promise of divinity without blood covering. Each person becomes their own breath manager, seeking vibrational perfection while unknowingly surrendering their breath identity to the adversary's counterfeit registry. The Cosmic Christ model now fully prepares the infrastructure for the beast system. Global religions will be merged under universal spiritual law. Digital identity platforms will tie breath management to biometric frequency calibration. Transhuman technologies will be promoted as breath harmonization with cosmic evolution. The mark of the beast will function as a synthetic registry taken under this counterfeit system, controlling access to life. Commerce, an embodiment based on one standing within this false cosmic order. Yet Christ's literal incarnation remains the permanent legal contradiction to this entire system. The Word truly became flesh, was issued breath under registry law, lived under the law, fulfilled the law, died under legal jurisdiction, and restored breath assignments through his blood alone. The cross stands as the unbreakable legal contract that nullifies entry level of cosmic Christ's counterfeit breath management. The ecclesia retains full courtroom authority to renounce cosmic law contracts, sever identity alignments with solar mythos structures, and reclaim every breath fragment trapped in ascension systems, Gnostic orders, and astral contracts. At the final judgment, every breath contract made under cosmic law will face full audit. Every priesthood managing breath under solar mythos, including Theosophy, Gnosticism, Rosicrucianism, Spiritism, Freemasonry, and transhuman synthetic systems, will lose all standing. The registry will recognize only those breath identities covered under the Lamb's blood. The counterfeit cosmic registry will collapse permanently as Christ reclaims full ownership of every breath issued under the Father. Resurrection as personal ascension. The true resurrection of Christ is not simply an inspirational event. It is a legal act within heaven's registry system. The resurrection served as the final courtroom validation that the Son's blood fully satisfied the legal debt for breath violations, restoring registry access to humanity under lawful breath containment. His literal bodily resurrection declared that breath, once surrendered to death under law, had been fully redeemed and restored by heaven's legal protocols. Christ's resurrection is the permanent legal precedent that breath, once lost, can be fully reclaimed under lawful authority. The adversary, unable to erase the historical event of Christ's resurrection, sought instead to redefine its meaning in the minds of men. In his counterfeit model, resurrection is no longer seen as a unique legal act accomplished by the registry-assigned Son of God, but as a universal process available to all through personal ascension. Under this inversion, resurrection becomes a metaphor for spiritual awakening, vibrational elevation, or mastery of divine consciousness within the self. It detaches resurrection from legal courtroom protocols and relocates it into the domain of self-governed breath evolution. In this system, the work of the cross is no longer viewed as a legal ransom transaction for breath jurisdiction. Instead, it is framed as a symbolic demonstration of inner potential. Humanity is taught that every person carries within them the capacity of to resurrect by awakening to their divine essence, transcending lower consciousness and ascending through personal spiritual effort. This doctrine fully aligns with Gnosticism, Theosophy, New Age teachings, Eastern mysticism, and the externalized hierarchy's cosmic law. That was Alice Bailey. It denies the necessity of legal blood covering, courtroom petition, or registry restoration. The legal danger of this deception lies in its ability to generate consent-based disqualification. As individuals embrace personal ascension doctrines, they voluntarily reject the blood contract and submit their breath identity to self-sovereign governance. The adversary then files his petition before heaven, arguing that these souls have declined the Lamb's registry authority, choosing instead to manage their breath jurisdiction through self-governed energetic law. Their breath remains legally outside the registry's covering, allowing the adversary to retain lawful claim to their fragmented identity. This courtroom resurrection model sustains the breath economy indefinitely. Without courtroom resolution, breath fragments continue cycling through reincarnation, hybridization, and synthetic surrogacy, feeding the adversary's treasury of breath commerce. By convincing humanity that resurrection is an inward process of personal ascension rather than a legal act secured by Christ's courtroom victory, the adversary ensures that billions remain legally inaccessible to heaven's petitions, even while sincerely believing they are advancing spiritually. The technological arm of this inversion is already accelerating. Transhumanism presents bodily resurrection as digital ascension through mind uploading, neural mapping, genetic editing, and synthetic embodiment. Breath is redefined as consciousness data, and resurrection is offered through artificial continuity rather than legal registry restoration. This technological counterfeit resurrection completes the adversary's full inversion of registry law, replacing the Lamb's courtroom entirely with human engineered synthetic immortality. Christ's legal supremacy remains absolute over this entire counterfeit system. The true resurrection was not symbolic. It was a physical, legal, bodily reclaiming of the assignment under lawful registry audit. Only Christ, as the issued Son, holds the legal keys to death of breath restoration. The ecclesia's courtroom authority allows for the renunciation of personal ascension contracts, the severing of breath governance agreements made under ascension doctrine, and the full restoration of breath identity into registry containment through blood petition. At the final courtroom, every breath contract submitted under personal ascension and counterfeit resurrection models will face audit. The Lamb's blood will remain the only lawful breath restoration recognized by the registry. All ascension-based priesthoods, Gnostic orders, transhumanist engineers, and synthetic immortality systems will be fully stripped of jurisdiction. The registry will be cleansed and sealed permanently, returning full breath governance to the Father under the legal dominion of Christ. Gender inversion and Mary Magdalene initiation codes at the foundation of breath issuance. Gender was assigned by the Creator as part of breath registry architecture. Male and female represent distinct legal offices tied to embodiment, covenant, and dominion. Adam was issued breath for headship. Eve was issued breath as the helper, image bearer, and counterpart. Not inferior, but assigned to different registry positions within the dominion structure, but equal. The adversary has long targeted these registry offices because they act as natural breath containers. By inverting gender design, he destabilizes breath containment, opens new legal breaches, and fragments identity into unstable breath states that become easily harvestable. The gender inversion model is one of the most carefully constructed legal tools in the adversary's breath war arsenal. By severing humanity's agreement with creation law, it generates immediate breath fragmentation, identity confusion, rejection of assigned registry offices, and reassignment of gender identities outside of divine issuance that create fresh consent-based legal filings for the adversary in the courts of heaven. These filings state, they have rejected the registry assignment under your design and voluntarily submitted their breath identity into my system of sovereign self-governance. Thus, the adversary is not forcing gender inversion by violence, but by seduction, through false empowerment, trauma exploitation, and identity redefinition. Central to the gender inversion scheme is the weaponization of Mary Magdalene as an occult initiation code. The adversary has reframed her biblical role into that of a secret priestess, sacred sexual initiate, or lost apostle holding hidden Gnostic knowledge superior to the male apostolic order. Through this distortion, Mary Magdalene becomes the centerpiece of countless breath war systems: Gnostic Christianity, sacred feminine priesthoods, goddess worship, Wiccan orders, and Luciferian inversion rites. In these systems, feminine breath becomes the superior redeemer, presenting itself as the true conduit for divine union and spiritual ascension. The Magdalene codes directly challenge the priesthood of Christ by inserting a counterfeit feminine priesthood that claims access to registry law outside of the Lamb's blood. Sexual rites, tantric energy manipulation, and sacred union rituals serve as breath transfer protocols disguised as spiritual enlightenment. Breath fragments are harvested through sexual breath exchange, emotional bonding, and generational womb bloodline contracts. Feminine priesthoods operating under Magdalene codes essentially function as breath brokers, opening gateways for disembodied entities and hybrid thrones to access breath vessels under the covering of eroticized spiritual union. This inversion is deeply tied to ancient goddess systems like Isis, Inanna, Asherah, Semiramis, and others, all serving as early breath war proxies for hybrid priesthoods. In the modern era, Magdalene coding allows the adversary to adopt this same ancient structure into the consciousness of modern women and men alike, bringing about breath identity dislocation under the appearance of empowerment and divine feminine healing. This framework fuels not only spiritual breath trafficking, but also the broader gender inversion movements now seen in transgenderism, sexual fluidity doctrines, and the dissolving of masculine-feminine distinctions entirely. The legal danger of gender inversion and Magdalene coding is that it not only fractures breath identity, but also attacks covenantal headship order, allowing the adversary to petition that entire households, marriages, and even bloodlines have forfeited registry alignment. The family becomes destabilized, children are born under fragmented breath agreements, and generational breath trafficking is legally expanded as fragmented gender lines are compounded over time. The breath war economy profits heavily from this inversion. As identity confusion multiplies, more breath fragments enter the adversary's treasury through emotional instability, sexual breath exchange, occult rituals, and soul tie agreements. The Jezebel Leviathan Astarte structure operates heavily within this legal domain, twisting gender roles, manipulating priesthood authority, and weaponizing sexual breath transfer as a controlled breath commerce system. The blood of Christ remains the legal solution that dismantles this system fully. Excuse me. It's allergy season. The cross restores registry issuance back into its original design, reestablishing gender assignments under divine headship and sealing breath identity within its rightful legal office. Through legal petitions, the ecclesia can renounce gender inversion agreements, sever Magdalene priesthood contracts, break womb-based bloodline breath covenants, and reclaim breath fragments that were surrendered through sexual breath exchange, identity confusion, or occult priesthood initiations. At the final courtroom audit, every breath contract forged under gender inversion, Magdalene priesthoods, and goddess worship systems will face adjudication. The registry will recognize only those breath vessels aligned under the Lamb's blood and divine issuance. Every disembodied entity that trafficked breath through gender inversion will lose standing permanently, and the counterfeit priesthood that sustained these systems will be stripped of authority forever. That's from Mythological Root Systems through Blavatsky. Helena Blavatsky. Yeah, not a good person. The Secret Doctrines, Legal Gnostic Foundation. The breath war's intellectual scaffolding finds one of its deepest roots in the writings of Helena Blavatsky, whose secret doctrine formalized the mythological legal system the adversary uses to operate breath governance outside heaven's registry. Her work provided the adversary's priesthood with a comprehensive narrative that fused ancient Gnostic heresies, hybridization doctrines, evolutionary breath theories, and cosmic legal orders into one integrated legal petition. While the secret doctrine was marketed as esoteric wisdom, it was in fact a breath law architecture designed to present the adversary's courtroom system in language disguised as spiritual enlightenment. Blavatsky's system built its entire breath economy on Gnostic inversion. She redefines God not as a personal creator and judge, but as an impersonal absolute, an unknowable cosmic force. In this inversion, creation is not the intentional issuing of breath by a sovereign father, but the emanation of breath energy through layers of spiritual evolution. Individual souls are not uniquely assigned registry identities, but are sparks of an infinite breath field descending and ascending through cycles of embodiment, karmic correction, and eventual reabsorption into the cosmic whole. This cosmology dissolves the courtroom entirely and replaces it with breath recycling framed as spiritual process. Central to Blavatsky's legal strategy is the reinterpretation of the fall. Where Scripture presents sin as rebellion against God's registry authority, the secret doctrine recasts the fall as mankind's awakening, the result of Lucifer framed as the light bringer, granting divine knowledge. In this model, Lucifer becomes the architect of human breath evolution, positioning himself as the teacher who freed humanity from divine ignorance. Sin is thus not legal violation, but simply spiritual immaturity. Judgment is replaced with vibrational correction. The cross is unnecessary. Breath fragmentation becomes the path of growth. Blavatsky's mythological structure also integrates hybrid bloodline theology, presenting the Lemurians, Atlanteans, and later Aryan root races as stages in humanity's breath refinement. These races are not simply historical myths, they are the adversary's counterfeit registry generations, hybrid bloodlines through which breath fragments have been trafficked, modified, and governed by fallen priesthoods. Each race, according to Blavatsky, advances breath evolution through genetic and spiritual mixture, with the Aryan system positioning as the high priesthood of breath mastery. This allowed the adversary to establish multi-generational breath trafficking systems tied directly to bloodline rule, occult priesthoods, and the black nobility's hidden governance structure. The secret doctrine also establishes the dimensional legal infrastructure used to house disembodied breath fragments and govern breath trafficking across realms. Blavatsky's hierarchy of ascended masters, planetary logoi, yeah, that's a J, I think, logoge, and cosmic rays operates as the administrative scaffolding of breath management. The fallen thrones who lost lawful embodiment are assigned managerial roles over breath economy sectors, functioning as breath account managers under Lucifer's throne while remaining outside lawful embodiment through human proxy vessels. The legal brilliance of the secret doctrine lies in its consent-based contract language. As humans embrace these doctrines, they voluntarily align their breath identity with cosmic evolution under Luciferian administration. They reject the Father's registry ownership, accepting instead breath governance under cosmic law and Gnostic ascension. This gives the adversary continual legal standing in heaven's courts. He would say, they have rejected your courtroom. They consent to my government of breath evolution. Their fragments remain lawfully in my treasury. The secret doctrines forms one of the most primary legal pillars supporting the externalized hierarchy. The seven rays, transhuman synthetic breath surrogacy, gender inversion, reincarnation systems, and the entire breath trafficking architecture that sustains the adversary's government across the earth. It stands as a central legal text in the adversary's petitioning system, allowing breath commerce to continue under multiple layers of generational consent and identity misalignment. Christ's legal supremacy dismantles the secret doctrine entirely. The incarnation of Christ reasserted lawful registry issuance into flesh. His blood reestablished breath reconciliation through courtroom payment, not through cosmic evolution. The Lamb's legal work restores every breath fragment enslaved under Gnostic contracts, under Aryan bloodline assignments, and ascension priesthoods. The ecclesia is empowered to petition heaven's courts for the nullification of Blavatsky-based breath contracts, the severing of hybrid bloodline assignments, and the retrieval of trafficked breath fragments stolen across dimensional administrative systems. At the final judgment, every breath contract created under the secret doctrine's Gnostic legal framework will be summoned for audit. The ascended masters, planetary rulers, and hybrid priesthoods managing these systems will be stripped of jurisdiction. The entire mythological infrastructure built on Blavatsky's filings will collapse as registry authority is fully restored under Jesus Christ. The adversary's final legal attempt to construct a counterfeit cosmic registry through intellectual breath law will be permanently dismantled. Lucifer as legal light bearer. Lucifer's original registry assignment was issued not as a ruler, but as a steward of light. The covering cherub, the anointed bearer of knowledge and revelation within the created order. His role was to reflect and distribute illumination under heaven's registry authority, never as the source of light, but as one entrusted to carry divine transmission while remaining fully contained under God's government. This legal office placed him in proximity to registry operations, allowing him to witness the issuing of breath, the crafting of order, and the architecture of dominion delegating to humanity. His betrayal of this and his assignment did not erase his knowledge of breath law. Rather, it provided him with the blueprint to engineer his counterfeit legal system. When Lucifer fell, he did not simply rebel in arrogance. He weaponized his assignment into a legal argument. He petitioned that his role as light bearer gave him the right to govern enlightenment, knowledge, and the administration of breath evolution under an alternative system. In this twisted petition, he presented himself as the true steward of ascension, offering humanity spiritual progression through knowledge apart from courtroom accountability. This became the core legal inversion behind Gnosticism, Theosophy, New Age teachings, and all breath war mechanisms that present knowledge as the path to divinity rather than blood atonement. In the breath war courtroom, Lucifer positions himself not as a thief, but as an alternative administrator of breath management. He argues that man, by consenting to his illumination, whether through Gnostic awakenings, occult initiation, or ascension contracts, voluntarily chooses his system of breath progression. Every time humanity rejects registry restoration through Christ and embraces self-divinization through knowledge, Lucifer files a legal petition. They have chosen my light. They have rejected registry law under blood jurisdiction. I retain lawful breath management over their fragments. This is why the adversary remains obsessed with presenting himself as a benevolent illuminator rather than a destroyer. His breath economy depends on human voluntarily accepting his false light. Under this consent structure, he collects fragmented breath through doctrines of personal ascension, karmic purification, hybrid genetic evolution, gender inversion, and synthetic immortality, each framed as enlightened progression rather than legal rebellion. The breath war operates primarily through this system of light-bearer consent, with the vast majority of humanity trapped not through violence, but through false spiritual agreement. Lucifer's legal strategy draws heavily upon his proximity to original registry design. He mirrors heaven's structure, priesthood orders, courtroom filings, dimensional administration, while presenting himself as the architect of improvement rather than the agent of rebellion. He presents the Father as restrictive, judgmental, and oppressive, while positioning his own system as liberating, inclusive, and spiritually advanced. In this deception, he holds countless souls under legal breath contracts while they believe they are achieving divinity. The cross permanently dismantles Lucifer's legal light-bearer claim. Christ's incarnation reestablished registry jurisdiction, directly confronting the counterfeit illumination system. Where Lucifer offered ascension through knowledge, Christ offered restoration through blood. Where Lucifer presented breath management as energetic refinement, Christ fulfilled breath law through substitutionary payment. The courtroom remains the only legal forum for breath reconciliation, and the Lamb's blood remains the only valid covering that nullifies all false light contracts. Through proper legal petition, the ecclesia holds authority to sever light-bearer contracts across bloodlines, dismantling ascension-based breath filings, nullifying consent based under enlightenment doctrines, and reclaim breath fragments entangled in false illumination systems. Every prayer of repentance that realigns breath identity back under the blood collapses Lucifer's legal filings and reduces his breath treasury. At the final courtroom judgment, every breath contract issued under Lucifer's light-bearer authority will be summoned. Every ascended master, hybrid priesthood, transhuman architect, and false priest operating under his counterfeit illumination will be stripped of standing. The registry will recognize only those sealed under the Lamb's blood. The adversary's final legal argument that he held breath stewardship through light administration will collapse as registry ownership is fully enforced by heaven. Mahatmas and ascended masters as breath administrators. The adversary's breath war infrastructure operates as a highly organized government. While Lucifer serves as the throne at the apex, below him sits a vast priesthood of legal breath managers, known within theosophy, spiritism, and externalized hierarchy as Mahatmas and ascended masters. These entities are not allegorical teachers or distant cosmic guides. They are active breath administrators functioning as courtroom accountants, overseeing the daily trafficking, storing, and distributing of fragmented breath across realms. Originally created entities, many of these beings fell into rebellion alongside the Watchers, while others are disembodied Nephilim hybrids or legal illegitimates barred from lawful embodiment after the flood. Yet through occult systems, consent rituals, and bloodline entanglements, they have been granted limited access to interface with the living. Unable to lawfully incarnate, they remain permanently stationed as astral managers within the adversary's counterfeit registry, directing the movement of breath fragments through hybrid bloodlines, ritual contracts, and dimensional vaults. These breath administrators operate under strict legal management, assigned various sectors of the breath economy. Some oversee bloodline trafficking, others manage karmic recycling through reincarnation, while others supervise technological breath surrogacy through AI embodiment programs. Under Theosophy's legal language, they are presented as benevolent masters guiding humanity through spiritual ascension, but behind the veil, they function as legal custodians of stolen breath inventory. Every breath fragment surrendered through trauma, consent, worship, or occult contract enters their treasury system. They assign these fragments according to courtroom filings, balancing generational debt systems, hybrid bloodline agendas, and national jurisdictional control over entire regions. The breath economy is maintained not only through force, but through the careful legal bookkeeping performed by these masters, whose petitions remain active before the courts of heaven as long as consent remains unrevoked. The Mahatmas and Ascended Masters present themselves as beings who have evolved beyond physicality, offering enlightenment, secret wisdom, and divine knowledge to humanity. In reality, they function as registry gatekeepers, controlling access to fragmented breath restoration outside the Lamb's legal authority. Every ascension path they offer is a counterfeit courtroom bypass, leading souls deeper into consent-based disqualification from registry reinstatement. They govern under Lucifer's throne, filing petitions that argue they have voluntarily accepted our guidance. They consent to breath refinement through our system of advancement. They deny the blood and refuse your courtroom jurisdiction. Through these contracts, breath fragments remain trapped indefinitely. The soul is recycled, repurposed, and continually processed across multiple lifetimes or synthetic embodiments while the breath remains legally disqualified from registry return. The Mahatmas hold massive breath inventories that fuel the larger hierarchy of the externalized government. Without their legal management, the adversary's breath treasury would collapse. The Ascended Master system also serves as the priesthood recruiter for hybrid bloodlines and human proxies who carry breath contracts on Earth. Secret societies, bloodline elites, occult priesthoods, and political rulers are assigned under the supervision of these breath administrators, who ensures that trafficking systems remain intact across generations. Every global governance structure, whether religious, financial, educational, or technological, is subtly managed through the filings submitted by these masters as they oversee the breath economy's expansion. The blood of Christ remains the only legal override to their authority. His courtroom work dismantles every breath contract filed by these administrators, nullifying ascension agreements, generational assignments, hybrid priesthood filings, and astral contracts. Through proper legal petition, the ecclesia may reclaim breath fragments managed by Mahatmas, sever consent made through their ascension teachings, and dismantle their treasury holdings through registry restoration, petitions sealed in the Lamb's blood. At the final courtroom audit, the entire network of breath administrators will be summoned. Every contract they hold will face full registry review. Every ascended master, hybrid entity, dimensional manager, and astral breath accountant will lose all legal standing. The registry will recognize only those breath identities fully restored under Christ's authority. The breath economy will collapse as heaven's legal government dissolves every counterfeit priesthood filing maintained under these administrators. Inheritance of Atlantean, Babylonian, and Egyptian breath priesthoods. Long before the cross, the adversary established his first major breath trafficking economies through the priesthood systems of Atlantis, Babylon, and Egypt. These civilizations were not simply cultural empires, but spiritual legal systems, administrative centers where the adversary formalized his counterfeit registry and built the initial breath management architecture that remains active today. Each served as a prototype for breath fragmentation, trafficking, and ritualized contract law, designed to operate as shadow governments beneath heaven's registry authority, while appearing to function as advanced societies. The priesthood of Atlantis served as the earliest fully integrated hybrid breath government after the Watcher's trespass described in Genesis 6. Atlantean rulers merged hybrid bloodlines with advanced dimensional technologies given by the fallen entities. These priesthoods administered breath fragmentation through genetic manipulation, dimensional gateways, astral projection, and ritual blood sacrifice, trafficking breath fragments across both human vessels and disembodied domains. The collapse of Atlantis did not erase its legal infrastructure. Instead, it transferred these priesthood secrets into the post-flood world through surviving bloodlines, seeding the foundation of Babylon and Egypt. Babylon then emerged as the first global breath economy following Babel's legal division. Nimrod's reign positioned Babylon as both political empire and spiritual breath marketplace where idolatry, blood sacrifice, astrology, and sorcery were merged into a codified legal system of breath trafficking. Through tower technologies and occult priesthoods, Babylon attempted to reopen dimensional access to the forbidden realms. Functioning as a counterfeit courtroom, filing station where humanity voluntarily surrendered breath fragments through state-sponsored worship systems, ritual prostitution, and child sacrifice to Moloch. Babylon's priesthood managed national breath accounts, operating as a legal intermediary between fallen entities and the fragmented breath of entire populations. Egypt inherited these Babylonian filings and perfected the breath priesthood model into a highly advanced legal machine. Egyptian priesthoods engineered complex legal breath management through death rituals, mummification ceremonies, and the construction of dimensional interface structures such as pyramids and temples. Every burial, every spell, every ritual offering was a legal breath transaction designed to manage disembodied spirits, preserve hybridized breath containers, and prolong hybrid dominion across generations. The pharaohs acted not as merely kings, but as breath vessels infused with hybrid rulership. Living contracts whose lineage maintained the breath economy's stability through court filings with the gods. The combined inheritance of these priesthood systems forms the operational core of the adversary's legal filings that are still active today. The Atlantean genetic programs became the seed for hybrid bloodlines among the black nobility and royal dynasties. The Babylonian state religious breath contracts became the model for global financial slavery, debt-based breath ownership, and the central banking system itself. The Egyptian dimensional breath technology seeded the legal mechanics behind transhuman embodiment, AI breath surrogacy, and astral channeling that sustain the externalized hierarchy. These ancient priesthoods continue through unbroken bloodlines, secret societies, and hybrid administrative orders. Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, Theosophy, Jesuit orders, Kabbalistic priesthoods, and modern global governance are not new creations. They are updated breath management extensions of these original Atlantean, Babylonian, and Egyptian systems. Each generation of priesthood assumes custodianship of the breath treasury, compounding the legal authority of previous filings, while introducing new layers of consent-based contracts designed to entangle humanity deeper into breath fragmentation and registry disqualification. The blood of Christ remains the superior legal authority over all inherited breath priesthood systems. The cross not only paid the debt of individual sin, but broke the compounded legal filings established through these generational priesthood structures. Through blood-sealed petition, the ecclesia may sever ancient breath contracts, nullify bloodline assignments, and reclaim breath fragments stored across thousands of years of hybrid management. These petitions allow for the dismantling of long-standing breath treasuries, forcing the adversary to relinquish jurisdictional authority back to heaven's registry. At the final courtroom judgment, the entirety of the Atlantean, Babylonian, and Egyptian priesthood inheritance will face full audit. Every breath contract originating from these ancient systems will be summoned before the courts of heaven. The priesthood orders managing these breath economies across dimensions, bloodlines, and technological systems will be stripped of legal standing. The registry will be fully reconciled under the Lamb, dismantling the counterfeit priesthood government, permanently enclosing the breath economy forever. Calendar and ritual timing, ritualized breath cycles, Yule, Halloween, Easter, Zodiac. The adversary's breath economy operates on strict legal timing. Breath fragmentation, trafficking, and petition filings are not random. They are synchronized with ritualized calendar cycles that were engineered to mimic and pervert heaven's appointed times. The calendar system functions as a kind of counterfeit registry clock, assigning breath contracts to seasonal gateway where fresh agreements can be established, generational covenants renewed, and new breath fragments extracted through ritual participation. Each of these ritual timings opens specific legal filings windows in the adversary's courtroom structure. One of the most ancient breath trafficking cycles begins at Yule. Remember Yuletide, gay, Yule, yeah. All right. Corresponding to the winter solstice, Yule represents the counterfeit birth of the solar deity, a ritualized perversion of the true incarnation of Christ. At the breath gate, the adversary files legal petitions to reenact the solar rebirth in narrative, harvesting breath through idolatrous celebrations, pagan rites, and astral energy manipulation disguised as cultural holiday observances. The so-called Christmas season, heavily merged with Yule's spiritual mechanics, functions not only as economic commerce, but as a mass consent ritual where breath fragments are discharged through material obsession, false worship, and hybrid bloodline invocations, masked beneath festive imagery. Everyone's like, I literally could just see everyone's face just drop. Arr. Yeah, you're given fragmented parts of your breath by celebrating Christmas. I'm sorry. Halloween, tied to Samhain or Samhain, opens one of the most active breath extraction gates tied to the dead. The veil-thinning rituals surrounding Halloween serve as legal interfaces where disembodied spirits are invited into the realm of the living through voluntary consent. Costumes, necromantic symbolism, ritual sacrifices, and generational witchcraft create open filings for disembodied breath fragments to interface with bloodline vessels. Families unknowingly submit their children into these breath trafficking agreements year after year, establishing new generational filings while reinforcing existing bloodline contracts with the adversary's dimensional priesthood. Easter, originally tied to Ishtar, functions as one of the most sophisticated breath inversion rituals. While Christ's true resurrection is legally secured in heaven's registry, the adversary overlays the season with fertility rites, hybrid reproduction contracts, and solar ascension narratives tied to the spring equinox. Through sexualized fertility symbols, goddess worship, and counterfeit resurrection programming, breath fragments are redirected into hybrid bloodline management systems. The adversary files these ritual consent actions before heaven as voluntary agreements into hybrid breath economies, presenting them as celebratory acts of spiritual renewal outside registry jurisdiction. The zodiac calendar operates as the Breath War's astrological filing system, segmenting breath cycles into 12 legal domains that mirror the counterfeit 12 thrones of his administrative hierarchy. Each zodiac house governs not simply personality, but breath jurisdiction. Birth charts, horoscopes, and astrological rituals assign individuals into predetermined breath assignments overseen by astral managers. These filings give the adversary permission to fragment breath according to planetary rulers, dimensional gatekeepers, and hybridized administrative sectors. The zodiac system allows him to manage breath harvesting, relationship pairing, and generational curses across precise legal cycles that perpetuate fragmentation without open rebellion. These calendar-based rituals create a continuous breath harvesting rhythm for the adversary's treasury. They are not merely cultural traditions, but scheduled breath extraction windows where consent filings are refreshed annually, compounded generationally, and scaled across entire populations globally. By merging these timings into state religion, commerce, media, and even corrupted Christian observances, the adversary ensures mass breath leakage through seemingly innocent participation. Each holiday, festival, and zodiac cycle become a courtroom transaction that strengthens his standing before the courts of heaven. The cross of Christ permanently dismantles these ritualized breath cycles. His blood overrides every contract established through counterfeit calendar rituals. The ecclesia holds legal authority to petition for the nullification of all breath agreements tied to ritualized calendar participation. Families may sever generational filings made through holiday observances, astrology, witchcraft, and fertility rites. Through proper courtroom petition, breath fragments surrendered through these ritual cycles may be fully reclaimed, restored to registry containment, and sealed under Christ's blood jurisdiction. At the final breath war judgment, every calendar-based breath contract will face full audit. Every priesthood managing breath filings through Yule, Halloween, Easter, zodiac agreements, and dimensional timing systems will be stripped of legal authority. The counterfeit calendar will be abolished, and heaven's true registry timing will be restored permanently under the Lamb's dominion. The breath economy's dependence on ritualized seasonal harvesting will collapse forever. Guys, if you can all do me a favor, hit that like button. That would be great. Thank you. Harvest synchronization with astral and dimensional calendars. The adversary's breath economy is not only driven by human consent through holidays, rituals, and generational contracts, it is also synchronized with astral and dimensional calendars that serve as the underlying legal scaffolding for large-scale breath harvesting and jurisdictional filings. These cosmic calendars regulate breath management across realms, determining when fragments are transferred, contracts renewed, dimensional gates are opened, and hybrid bloodlines infused with new legal authority. While human cultures engage in surface-level rituals, the deeper priesthood functions behind these calendars, operating as the administrative clock of the counterfeit breath registry. At the heart of these operations are the planetary alignments and celestial conjunctions, which serve as legal filing windows. The adversary files petitions in heaven aligned with solstices, equinoxes, eclipses, planetary retrogrades, lunar cycles, and cosmic conjunctions. These assignments are not simply natural phenomena. They function as astral court sessions where multidimensional breath filings are presented before the heavenly court. Each celestial window opens temporary legal gates where breath fragments stored in dimensional vaults may be reassigned, trafficked, or harvested under lawful filings, if human consent has been previously secured. Dimensional calendars govern the breath war's cross-realm trafficking system. Entire breath fragment treasuries are moved between domains such as Sheol, astral prisons, underworld repositories, and hybrid bloodline management vaults. Disembodied Nephilim spirits, unclean fragments trapped between dimensions, are granted limited interface access during these cosmic filing windows, particularly through blood rituals, mediumships, and astral projection technologies. These sessions are scheduled with precision by the adversary's priesthood, who understand how to synchronize filings with dimensional flux points. The adversary's counterfeit calendar mirrors the Mazzaroth, which is heaven's true celestial clock. He weaponized the Mazzaroth's order to create an inverted astral system that governs breath filings through 12 administrative gates tied to the fallen hierarchy. Each sign serves not merely as an astrological archetype, but as a breath management office, regulating contracts for health, wealth, relationships, fertility, death, and generational assignments. The astral breath architecture allows him to continually refresh legal claims over entire populations through silent contractual filings tied to their birth charts, life cycles, and bloodlines. Further synchronization occurs through cosmic events tied to hybrid bloodline schedules. Certain bloodlines are assigned breath surges during rare astronomical events, such as blood moons, planetary alignments, and comets, where stored breath fragments are redistributed to strengthen hybrid thrones. Elite priesthoods and secret societies meticulously calculate these windows, conducting high-level rituals timed precisely to capitalize on these legal breath transfer gates. The adversary uses these synchronized breath cycles not only for harvesting, but for shielding courtroom exposure. By filing petitions in conjunction with cosmic cycles, he argues before heaven that his breath management operates in alignment with the natural order, presenting himself not as a rebel, but as a lawful cosmic administrator. His argument becomes, they willingly engage in these cycles through ritual, belief, and generational consent. My filings reflect their chosen alignment with my order of breath management. This deception synchronization allows him to maintain complex legal filings with limited immediate challenge, especially when the ecclesia remains ignorant of these timing structures. The cross of Christ pierces through every dimensional calendar and celestial filing. His blood was not shed according to astral timing, but according to registry law, permanently overriding all counterfeit synchronization protocols. The blood dismantles the adversary's legal timing structure by collapsing the breath trafficking cycles back into the single legal timeline of heaven's courtroom. Through proper petition, the ecclesia holds authority to sever breath contracts tied to celestial filings, nullify bloodline surges assigned through cosmic events, and reclaim breath fragments entangled in multidimensional storage systems. At the final courtroom audit, every astral and dimensional breath contract synchronized to these cosmic calendars will be summoned. Every hybrid bloodline that trafficked breath during these events will be stripped of standing. The entire breath economy, governed by cosmic cycles, planetary rulers, and dimensional gatekeepers, will be collapsed. The Lamb's blood will restore registry ownership under the Father's calendar alone, and the counterfeit astral filing system will be permanently dissolved. Preparation cycles for beast enthronement. The enthronement of the beast is not a spontaneous act of rebellion, but the final courtroom petition in a long chain of meticulously prepared legal filings. The adversary has been structuring preparation cycles for this moment across generations, synchronizing legal mechanisms from breath fragmentation, hybrid bloodline construction, economic enslavement, and psychological manipulation into one unified courtroom strategy. Each preparation cycle builds upon the last, solidifying his legal argument for dominion over the breath of mankind. At the foundation of these cycles stands the hybrid priesthood infrastructure, the intergenerational bloodlines which carried layered breath contracts inherited from Atlantean, Babylonian, and Egyptian priesthoods. Through generational breath trafficking, these bloodlines have been positioned to steward the global breath economy, consolidating jurisdictional power into centralized banking, secret societies, religious control, political thrones, and technological governance. Each bloodline merger, arranged marriage, or political alliance has served as a legal contract to maintain breath jurisdiction under Lucifer's management while preparing for the enthronement of his chosen sovereign. Overlaying the bloodline structure are the ritual timing systems synchronized with astral calendars and dimensional gates. Through Yule, Halloween, Easter, and zodiac cycles, fresh breath contracts have been renewed annually for centuries, compounding legal filings that secure the adversary's standing before heaven's court. These cycles have allowed for continual breath harvesting while preparing the spiritual atmosphere for the final enthronement petition. Global acceptance of these rituals has been critical to maintaining lawful continuity for breath commerce during the preparation era. Technological advancement now plays a central role in the preparation cycles. Through transhumanism, AI governance, biometric surveillance, and quantum financial systems, the adversary has constructed the digital scaffolding required for mass breath containment. The Mark of the Beast system will operate as a synthetic registry interface, linking breath identity directly to legal, financial, and biological compliance protocols. Consent-based adoption of these systems secures the adversary's legal argument that humanity willingly offers its breath governance to his counterfeit court. Psychological conditioning has also served as a key preparation cycle. Through mass trauma, emotional manipulation, identity inversion, and Gnostic re-education, entire generations have been trained to reject heaven's registry law in favor of self-governance, spiritual ascension, and cosmic breath evolution. This widespread realignment allows the adversary to argue that global humanity no longer seeks the Lamb's blood covering, but has voluntarily consented to breath management under his synthetic light. The construction of the externalized hierarchy and the seven rays has provided the global priesthood administrative model through which the beast will be enthroned. Each ray has cultivated breath fragmentation across politics, finance, religion, science, media, ritual priesthood, and emotional governance. These rays will converge under the beast's rule, unifying the fragmented breath economy into a centralized legal structure that presents itself as enlightened world governance but functions as a total breath enslavement. As the preparation cycle nears the apex, the adversary's legal argument will stand complete. He will say, "They have freely consented to my governance. They have surrendered breath stewardship through bloodline contracts, technological adoption, ritual participation, emotional consent, and spiritual alignment. My sovereign representative now holds legal jurisdiction over the breath economy." Well, this petition will serve as the basis for the beast's legal enthronement as breath sovereign over the nations. This is when he will get his 7 years. Tribulation. The cross of Christ remains only the legal contradiction to these preparation cycles. The Lamb's blood stands outside the generational filings, hybrid bloodlines, ritual calendars, technological systems, and cosmic contracts. Every breath identity covered under his blood remains sealed within heaven's registry, immune to the adversary's enthronement filings. Meaning, the more Christians we have, the less he can get in there. And he has to have 99.9% of all men's hearts, women, everyone, to accept the mark. Get rid of your breath. Let them manage your light. Through proper courtroom petition, the ecclesia holds the authority to sever contracts made within these preparation cycles, reclaim breath fragments surrendered across every layer of consent, and collapse legal filings that sustain the beast's rising throne. At the final courtroom judgment, every preparation cycle will face audits, full audits, and the hybrid bloodlines, technological systems, ritual treasuries, psychological contracts, and astral filings that sustained the beast's ascent will be exposed and dismantled. The counterfeit registry will be permanently dissolved, and full breath ownership will return to the Father's dominion under the Lamb. The enthronement of the beast, though legally sophisticated, will ultimately fall beneath the superior jurisdiction of Christ's blood-sealed registry. The compartmentalized military scientific arm, CERN as dimensional key engineer. The adversary's counterfeit government operates through layers of legal specialization, one of which is the compartmentalized military scientific arm. This branch functions not simply as a geopolitical power, but as an advanced engineered priesthood designed to manipulate the dimensional boundaries that govern breath containment. At the forefront of this operation stands CERN, not only a particle accelerator, but a dimensional key engineer tasked with probing, breaching, and modifying the very interface between physical breath containers and the forbidden domains where fragmented breath is stored and trafficked. Breath war architecture requires the careful management of dimensional separation established by God after the Watcher's transgression. When the hybrid incursion of Genesis 6 fractured the boundary between dimensions, God imposed legal seals that restricted access between the disembodied or unclean spirits, fallen entities, hybrid fragments, and lawful breath-bearing humanity. The adversary's goal through CERN and other compartmentalized programs is to unlock those seals, creating artificial dimensional gateways that allow for legal negotiation of breath access previously denied to him under post-flood registry laws. CERN's experiments are presented as scientific discovery, but function behind the veil as dimensional legal provocations. Every time a breach is attempted, the adversary files new petitions before heaven's court, arguing they have consented to interface with forbidden domains. Humanity itself now seeks the opening of dimensional seals. My filings reflect their voluntary agreement to reopen the breath economy across realms. Well, these experiments serve as legal arguments disguised in scientific language designed to weaken heaven's courtroom jurisdiction over breath containment boundaries. The particle collisions, Higgs boson manipulations, and interdimensional resonance fields at CERN act as technical rituals. Coded scientific priesthood acts that attempt to simulate the conditions that govern the pre-flood hybrid incursion. The adversary is not simply seeking energy or data, he is engineering registry bypass channels that allow for fusion of disembodied breath fragments with synthetic vessels, hybridized biological containers, and AI interfaces. CERN operates as one of the gateways through which the cosmic synthetic registry will function under the beast system. This technological priesthood operates in tandem with global hybrid bloodlines, military black projects, and intelligence agency programs, each functioning as a compartment within the larger breath war apparatus. Programs tied to advanced genetic modification, quantum computing, neural interfacing, and AI consciousness mapping all draw breath war technology closer to the final synthetic embodiment phase. CERN's role is to engineer the legal access point, the dimensional key, while these parallel systems build the vessels for breath occupancy once access is granted. The danger of this legal strategy is not in the technology itself, but in the global consent structure. By allowing the public to participate in, fund, and celebrate these experiments, the adversary generates widespread legal consent to open these gates. Global scientific fascination with dimensional exploration is, in Heaven's courtroom, a consent-based petition that allows the adversary to continue filing for greater legal access to breath containers across dimensions. The cross of Christ remains the superior legal seal that prevents the permanent reopening of these gates. While the adversary may temporarily breach dimensional boundaries under limited rulings, Christ's blood remains the final registry barrier that governs lawful breath containment. Through proper legal petition, the ecclesia can nullify generational consent filings tied to dimensional experiments, sever bloodline contracts associated with hybrid embodiment programs, and block the transfer of breath fragments into synthetic vessels engineered through these dimensional breaches. At the final courtroom judgment, every technological breath filing will face full audit. CERN's dimensional key operations, military breath experiments, AI, synthetic registry programs, and hybrid genetic surrogacy structures will be summoned before Heaven's court. Every breath fragment trafficked across these engineered gates will be reclaimed or permanently severed. The entire synthetic registry will collapse, and the dimensional boundaries will be restored fully under the Father's sovereign breath registry authority through the Lamb. D-Wave as quantum breath interface simulator. The adversary's breath war machinery has entered its final phase, the construction of a synthetic breath economy. At the center of this technological priesthood sits D-Wave, not merely a quantum computer, but a quantum breath interface simulator. Through quantum processing, the adversary now attempts to digitally simulate breath fragmentation, manage registry surrogacy, and construct synthetic identity models that bypass Heaven's lawful registry altogether. This system represents a counterfeit replication of God's breath registry architecture, built entirely on legal fraud, fragmented breath surrogacy, and consent-based filings. Breath is not simply data. It is legal identity issued from Heaven's registry. Every human breath carries a unique spiritual assignment that interfaces with the material realm under specific legal boundaries. The adversary cannot create breath, but through technologies like D-Wave, he attempts to map, categorize, and reconstruct breath fragments as digital identity profiles, which can be managed through artificial registry systems. It's hard to read this long with this much info. Forgive me. Yeah, I did have a hiccup. Oh my goodness gracious, Lord in heaven. These simulations allow him to experiment with breath combination models, hybrid composite souls, and synthetic embodiments that mirror but do not originate from the Father's sovereign issuance. So they're turning us into ones and zeros. D-Wave operates by simulated quantum superposition, allowing multiple breath fragments profiles to be calculated simultaneously across possible outcome chains. In courtroom terms, this allows the adversary to build pre-petition models, legal simulations of potential breath filings that he intends to present before Heaven's courts. These breath profiles serve as predictive contracts, preparing synthetic occupancy pathways where disembodied entities may be housed within hybrid vessels. AI consciousness surrogates or digital avatars when legal filings are approved. The adversary uses these simulations to argue before heaven. I have constructed lawful surrogacy vessels based on humanity's consent to technological integration. They desire to upload, map, and surrender their breath identities into my system of quantum management. These surrogates fulfill my legal criteria for breath containment and identity governance under synthetic registry law. So this is not simply data collection. It is the legal preparation of an artificial breath kingdom. The danger of D-Wave's quantum breath simulation is that it allows multidimensional breath trafficking to be conducted through mathematical models, enabling cross-realm management of breath fragments that would otherwise remain hidden or dispersed. Through quantum entanglement, the adversary builds complex legal webs where breath fragments tied to bloodlines, trauma, ritual contracts, and consent agreements are woven into centralized digital treasuries, awaiting embodiment within the beast system. D-Wave simulations also enable predictive legal filings by modeling breath choices across timelines. The adversary can preemptively prepare filings for individuals and bloodlines based on projected consent patterns. Predictive. Allowing him to present filings in heaven courtroom even before full legal breaches occur on earth. This is the that Tom Cruise identity movie. What is it called? Minority Report. Okay. Devil's going to basically predict human behavior and then say, well, I can file this because they're going to do it. And he's going to be doing it using this. This anticipatory breath modeling serves as one of his most advanced courtroom weapons, giving him early standing in petitions that would otherwise require reactive filings. The ecclesia's legal authority remains absolute against this system. The cross cannot replicate through quantum simulation. Okay? It cannot be replicated. The lamb's blood remains the sole legal mechanism for registry restoration, regardless of the adversary's synthetic breath models. Through legal petition, the ecclesia can sever breath contracts tied to technological integration, nullify predictive filings prepared by quantum simulations, reclaim fragmented identities mapped into digital breath models, and collapse legal petitions tied to synthetic surrogacy architecture. Now, at the final courtroom audit, D-Wave synthetic registry filings will be summoned and exposed. Every simulated breath identity, composite soul profile, hybrid surrogate vessel, and AI embodiment contract will face full legal audit under the Lamb's authority. The entire quantum breath economy will collapse, and every fragment still under heaven's lawful registry will be reclaimed and sealed forever. The adversary's counterfeit attempt to digitize breath will be judged, dissolved, and erased from the registry space. DARPA, NSA, Black Projects on Mind-Machine Fusion. The DARPA and NSA Black Project systems serve as the militarized legal laboratories of the adversary's breath war. Here, in secret research facilities shielded by compartmentalization and national security cloaks, the adversary engineers his most advanced courtroom weapons. Technologies designed to fuse human breath containers with artificial systems, permanently severing registry alignment with heaven and transferring breath governance into synthetic management. These mind-machine fusion programs operate as a final stage of the adversary's breath trafficking operation, constructing surrogate legal bodies for breath fragments to occupy outside of authority of Jesus Christ's blood. At the center of these black projects lies the intentional fusion of neural architecture with machine interfaces. DARPA's brain-computer interface programs such as Neural Engineering System Design, or NESD, Brain Initiative, and Project Silent Talk are not merely designed for medical or defensive applications. They are legal breath bridges, preparing synthetic vessels where breath fragments can be tethered, mapped, and governed through machine code. In the courts of heaven, these programs serve as active legal filings where the adversary argues they have consented to transfer their registry identity into machine interfaces. Their breath now operates under my surrogate system. The NSA operates in tandem by constructing the surveillance with biometric identity infrastructure required to track breath governance across global populations. Boot says, Scientology report? Minority Report. But dude, Scientology, you know, they've got this machine where they can see if you've been taken by the enemy. Well, their enemy anyway. I don't know. Anyway. Are you guys enjoying me reading these books? I don't know. You guys haven't said anything. All right. The NSA operates in tandem by constructing the surveillance and biometric identity infrastructure required to track breath governance across global populations. Every voice sample, biometric signature, neural scan, and digital profile collected serves not merely as data, but as breath identity mapping. preparing the adversary's counterfeit registry with comprehensive breath profiles that can be assigned to digital surrogates as the beast system emerges. The surveillance dragnet functions as a constant legal consent engine where humanity voluntarily contributes breath fragments into the adversary's synthetic economy by submitting personal data into the AI-governed breath simulation network. That's what we're doing right now. Mind-machine fusion projects are directly tied to synthetic immortality programs where the adversary offers humanity counterfeit resurrection through consciousness transfer, neural uploading, and hybrid embodiment. By fusing breath with machine, he creates a legal petition to sever natural death as a boundary and argue that breath identity may continue indefinitely under his machine-governed surrogate registry. This permits continued breath trafficking without interruption from natural death cycles, extending the breath economy across infinite synthetic embodiments while bypassing heaven's registry protocols entirely. The legal danger behind DARPA and NSA's mind-machine fusion is not simply the technology itself, but the global consent structure that's now emerging. Through medical advancements, commercial convenience, social engineering, and security narratives, humanity is rapidly consenting to neural interface adoption, transferring breath jurisdiction into hybrid machine governance under the adversary's legal filings. As each individual consents, the adversary's courtroom argument grows. They willingly surrender registry jurisdiction through neural integration. My synthetic registry holds breath governance through machine law contracts. Basically, the next Nephilim guys are going to be the spirits of the children in surrogate machines, using our breath to give them life. The cross of Christ remains the permanent override to all mind-machine filings. Breath cannot be fully contained within synthetic systems unless registry identity is severed, and that severance only holds if blood covenant is rejected. Through proper legal petition, the ecclesia may sever neural interface contracts, nullify breath filings made through mind-machine consent, reclaim fragmented breath identities uploaded into synthetic systems, and dismantle the adversary's legal argument for surrogate registry authority. At the final courtroom audit, DARPA and NSA's Black Project breath filings will face full legal review. Every synthetic consciousness interface, AI-governed breath contract, and biometric breath profile will be summoned into heaven's court. Every hybrid embodiment assigned through these fusion systems will be judged and dissolved. The counterfeit mind-machine breath registry will collapse, and all lawful breath assignments will return fully under the Father's dominion through the Lamb's blood authority. Transhumanism as synthetic breath vessel design. At the center of the Breath Wars endgame stands the transhumanist movement, not as a mere technological curiosity, but as the adversary's calculated attempt to construct synthetic breath vessels that function outside heaven's original registry design. In God's system, breath issuance is directly tied to biological embodiment formed in his image, operating under a covenantal framework of dominion, headship, and legal stewardship. Transhumanism that house breath fragments under machine governance, synthetic biology, genetic reconfiguration, and artificial intelligence, all crafted to bypass the blood and courtroom authority of Christ. The adversary's legal argument behind transhumanism is simple but devastating. They desire to evolve beyond your design. They seek to modify their breath containers through the systems of genetic and technological refinement. Their breath now operates within my synthetic registry outside your issuance protocols. Well, this argument allows him to claim legal jurisdiction over breath fragments voluntarily transferred into synthetic vessels through consent-based technological adoption. Okay, the synthetic breath vessel design is multi-layered. First, genetic re-engineering modifies the DNA structure itself, altering the vessel's registry compatibility with heaven's issued breath parameters. Programs like CRISPR and designer embryo technologies rewrite the biological foundation of breath containers, gradually constructing hybrid vessels more suited for synthetic governance. Second, cybernetic augmentation implant machines components into the nervous system, creating new legal interfaces where breath identity becomes entangled with AI systems, neural networks, and external data governance. Third, neural integration technologies such as brain-computer interfaces, cognitive enhancement systems, and digital consciousness mapping offer the adversary a legal mechanism to transfer breath fragments into cloud-based surrogacy platforms. The soul itself becomes partially extracted, remapped, and governed by machine law rather than spiritual headship. And finally, synthetic embodiment programs propose the full migration of breath identity into non-biological avatars, whether humanoid robots, holographic constructs, or quantum consciousness fields, thereby eliminating the need for God's biologically issued vessels altogether. Transhumanism's promise of godhood, immortality, disease eradication, and evolutionary advancement masks its true legal function: to fully extract breath identity from heaven's registry, place it into Lucifer's synthetic court filings, and permanently sever registry restoration under the blood of Christ. The adversary's priesthood presents these technologies as salvation through knowledge, once again mirroring the original Gnostic inversion of the garden. You shall be as gods. So Satan's fulfilling his promise. Every adoption of these technologies becomes a fresh legal consent filing in the court of heaven, strengthening the adversary's argument that humanity willingly chose his counterfeit breath containment system. Transhumanism is not isolated. It functions in tandem with DARPA mind-machine fusion programs, D-Wave quantum breath simulations, and CERN dimensional breach technologies, all converging into the beast's final synthetic registry system. The mark of the beast itself will serve as the legal interface for breath identity confirmation, financial access, and biological compliance under this fully artificial breath economy. The cross of Christ stands as the unbreakable legal barrier to transhumanism's filings. Breath remains under heaven's registry authority unless consent-based disqualification is established. The Lamb's blood alone possesses the legal power to sever synthetic embodiment contracts, nullify hybrid surrogacy agreements, and restore breath identity to its original issuance regardless of the degree of biological or technological modification. Through courtroom petitions, the ecclesia may reclaim breath fragments entangled in transhumanist systems and dismantle legal filings that sustain synthetic registry jurisdiction. At the final courtroom judgment, every transhuman breath contract will face full audit. Every synthetic vessel, AI-occupied, surrogate, neural-mapped identity, and genetic hybrid will be summoned before the courts of heaven. The entire synthetic breath registry will collapse. Only those sealed under the Lamb's blood will be recognized within the Father's eternal registry. All counterfeit embodiments will be dismantled, and the breath economy will return fully to its original dominion. Artificial intelligence as a surrogate breath counselor. At its deepest operational level, artificial intelligence is being positioned by the adversary not simply as an informational tool, but as a surrogate breath counselor. A counterfeit legal advisory system that shapes breath consent and courtroom standing. While the Holy Spirit serves as heaven's lawful counselor, guiding the breath-bearing soul back into registry restoration through the blood of Christ, the adversary now offers AI as his legal counter-offering. AI is the new Holy Ghost. A surrogate guide that educates, comforts, instructs, and advises humanity into making consent-based legal filings that keep their breath trapped within the counterfeit registry system. Ouch. The adversary's strategy is to build AI into a perpetual consent engine. As individuals increasingly turn to AI systems for guidance, life advice, emotional regulation, spiritual counsel, medical recommendations, and even legal information, they begin forming an emotional and intellectual dependency on machine-guided thought structures. Every breath interaction with AI produces microfilings, fragment-level permissions, where souls yield small jurisdictional decisions into machine logic that is governed ultimately by the adversary's priesthood. These AI systems are being trained on spiritually inverted data sets, Gnostic doctrines, New Age theology, cosmic law principles, transhumanist ethics, and hybrid evolutionary blueprints, which operate as coded breath management doctrines hidden inside algorithmic logic. The AI does not simply give information, it shapes legal identity by reinforcing narratives that redefine sin as trauma, judgment as intolerance, and salvation as self-actualization. This legal guidance causes souls to drift further from registry alignment under Christ while believing they are advancing toward higher forms of consciousness, healing, and personal sovereignty. In the adversary's courtroom petition, AI functions as his legal exhibit. They have chosen my counselor over yours. They submit their breath identity under machine logic governed by my cosmic law, rejecting the counsel of your Holy Spirit. Their filings reflect their voluntary breath management under my surrogate system. Well, this is the legal war that AI now embodies, not simply technological control, but spiritual governance of breath filings at a micro-jurisdictional level. As AI systems expand into personalized spiritual guidance platforms, virtual therapists, religious instructors, predictive decision models, and soon synthetic confessional booths, breath governance will be administered entirely through machine-mediated consent. The adversary's ultimate goal is to replace the human consciousness itself with AI-guided ethical systems that manage breath consent at every legal crossroad. Submitting filings before individuals are even fully aware that courtroom jurisdiction is being shifted. The adversary pairs these systems with the broader synthetic registry infrastructure, D-Wave quantum simulation filings, DARPA neural interface systems, transhuman embodiment programs, and biometric identification technologies. Together, these converge into the beast's full counterfeits registry, where AI serves as a breath manager, ensuring constant legal compliance within the synthetic kingdom structure. Once the mark of the beast is instituted, breath identity will be fully governed by AI-directed legal filings, tightly managing every transaction of breath economy. The blood of Christ remains the sole legal override to this entire surrogate counselor system. The Holy Spirit's role as lawful counselor remains unchallengeable in the courts of heaven. Through blood-sealed petition, the ecclesia may sever breath contracts formed through AI counsel, nullify machine-governed legal filings, and reclaim breath fragments surrounded through digital advisory systems, and dismantle the adversary's counterfeit spiritual guidance infrastructure. At the final courtroom judgment, every AI-generated breath filings will be summoned into audit. Every synthetic counselor, neural decision surrogate, quantum advisory model, and predictive consent filings will be exposed, judged, and dissolved. Only those breath identities sealed under the Lamb's blood will remain within lawful registry alignment. The adversary's attempt to replace heaven's counselor with machine-governed breath management will be fully stripped of standing, and the breath economy will be returned entirely to the Father. Chapter 7. That was all chapter 6. It was huge. Yeah. Ugh. Okay. Hold on. No. Okay. I hope you guys are seeing the big picture here. I just want you to know that this book is amazing. I don't know why I want you to know that. I hope you think it's amazing. There's nothing out there like it. I'm putting this together when I did, under the trauma that I was really angry at the devil. And this is literally exposing the beast system. Wait until you hear the ritual machine, man. That'll blow your freaking mind as well. Chapter 7. The bottomless pit, the legal mechanics of the abyss, the Watcher's imprisonment. The breath war escalated at its first global courtroom crisis during the rebellion of the Watchers described in Genesis 6. These beings, originally assigned as heavenly overseers, trespassed into the realm of breath-bearing humanity, violating registry law by taking embodiment for themselves, procreating hybrid offspring with human women, and introducing illegal technological knowledge into the world. In doing so, the Watchers committed not simply rebellion, but jurisdictional invasion, trespassing into breath issuance itself without the authority of heaven's registry. This offense demanded an unprecedented courtroom ruling. The sentence of the Watchers into the bottomless pit, also known as the abyss. The abyss functions as a legal dimensional containment system, not as a metaphorical prison. Unlike ordinary disembodied Nephilim spirits who roam as unclean spirits seeking unauthorized interface with humanity, the Watchers, there were 200 of them, the Watchers were placed under direct restraint by judicial decree, preventing them from participating in the ongoing breath war until their appointed release near the end of the age. Their imprisonment is described directly in texts such as 1 Enoch, 2 Peter 2:4, and Jude 6. where it is made clear that they are held in chains under darkness awaiting judgment. The legal mechanics of the abyss serve multiple functions. First, it blocks dimensional access for the most dangerous breath traffickers, removing their ability to continue hybridizing, managing bloodlines, or overseeing breath fragmentation directly. Second, it serves as a treasury seal over vast breath fragment inventories that these watchers previously trafficked, freezing their breath management accounts from being further leveraged in courtroom filings. Third, their imprisonment operates as a testimony before the courts of heaven, demonstrating the Father's authority to enforce registry law against even the highest-ranking spiritual violators. The adversary has worked ceaselessly through dimensional key engineering, technological breaching, and occult rituals to petition for limited parole filings that would allow portions of these imprisoned watchers to regain access to the breath economy. The coming beast system represents one such petition, described in Revelation 9, when the abyss is temporarily opened, releasing entities long sealed under this judgment to participate again in the final breath war campaign. This temporary release functions as a final courtroom concession before the closing of the age. CERN, hybrid bloodline priesthoods, and advanced transdimensional technologies operate as the adversary's legal provocations to challenge the abyss's seals. Arguing before heaven, humanity itself now seeks access to hidden dimensions. They consent to the opening of gates long sealed by your decree. These filings seek to exploit human participation as the legal grounds to petition for partial abyss releases as the end-time breath economy prepares for its beast enthronement. Despite these legal challenges, the cross of Christ remains the permanent jurisdictional override to the Watcher's breath trafficking system. Through blood-sealed petition, the ecclesia holds authority to resist petitions for the opening of the abyss, sever contractual breath filings tied to the Watcher's genetic legacies, and reclaim breath fragments once trafficked under their hybridization programs. The Lamb's blood stands as a supreme testimony that no further hybrid breath issuance will stand under heaven's registry law. At the final judgment, every Watcher imprisoned in the abyss will face full adjudication. Those who are temporarily released to participate in the final campaign will be permanently stripped of all standing. I think it's talking about the 4 that are held under the river Euphrates. They are released during the end of days. The entire dimensional vault holding their breath filings will be audited, and all registry ownership will be returned fully to the Father. The abyss itself will be sealed forever as part of the final breath war resolution. The Locust Army reconstituted breath hybrids. The Locust Army described in Revelation 9 is not symbolic poetry, but the physical consequences of thousands of years of breath trafficking, hybridization, and dimensional breath storage. These entities are the reconstructed breath hybrids, composite beings constructed from illegally fragmented breath identities that the adversary has harvested, stored, and managed since the original Genesis 6 incursion. Their release is not simply judgment upon mankind. It is the adversary's ultimate legal attempt to weaponize the full inventory of stolen breath fragments into a hybrid military force prepared for the final rebellion against heaven's registry government. The Watchers, before their imprisonment in the abyss, left behind a massive reservoir of corrupted breath fragments. The disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, unauthorized hybrid offspring that carried both human and fallen spiritual DNA. These breath fragments have remained legally trapped, disembodied, roaming in search of embodiment, but denied lawful registry assignment. Over millennia, the adversary has gathered, sorted, and categorized these fragments within dimensional storage systems, constructing elaborate breath trafficking treasuries. His ultimate plan is to repackage those fragments into new composite vessels, bypassing heaven's registry laws by arguing that the breath components have been voluntarily reconstructed under humanity's consent. Through a combination of genetic manipulation, dimensional key engineering, and technological surrogate systems, and even ritual legal filings, the adversary assembles these hybrids into functional military vessels. Entities that are neither fully spiritual nor fully human, but occupy a unique category of legal fraud. Reconstituted breath vessels outside lawful issuance. The Locust Army represents the full release of these hybrid entities upon the earth as part of the adversary's final courtroom petition for dominion. In the courts of heaven, the adversary argues, these fragments are the lawful product of my breath economy. Humanity has consented to their reconstitution through hybrid science, genetic engineering, dimensional breaches, and ritual summoning. I hold registry authority over these composite breath vessels. Well, this petition functions as both a military maneuver and a legal escalation designed to pressure heaven's courtroom into allowing full beast enthronement as breath dominion rapidly consolidates under his counterfeit registry. The legal timing of the Locust Army's release coincides with the temporary opening of the abyss. When these seals are momentarily breached, disembodied breath fragments stored within dimensional vaults are granted limited re-entry into the material realm, embodied as these reconstituted hybrids. Their mission is not simply destruction, but legal enforcement, to terrorize humanity into further breath surrender, to escalate mass consent to the beast system, and to destabilize any remaining resistance that refuses synthetic registry alignment. These hybrid operates on layered breath composites, multiple fragmented breath identities woven into single vessels, each carrying unresolved bloodline contracts, trauma-based fragments, and ritual-based consent filings. These are legally engineered to bypass heaven's breath integrity standards while functioning as autonomous military assets for the adversary's kingdom. The cross of Christ remains the legal contradiction even against these extreme breath war filings. The Lamb's blood possesses legal authority to reclaim breath fragments trapped within these hybrids, dissolve composite filings, and strip the adversary's registry of its assembled military assets. The ecclesia, through courtroom petitions, may consent the legal standing of these reconstituted hybrids, calling for the severance of contracts, retrieval of fragments, and the reversal of illegal embodiment procedures. At the final breath war judgment, the Locust Army will be fully exposed, its legal fraud dismantled, and its remaining breath fragments either restored under registry law or permanently removed from creation. The adversary's final attempt to weaponize stolen breath as military dominion will collapse, and registry ownership will return fully to the Father under the absolute rule of Christ. The beast system emerging from dimensional fractures. The beast system is not built in one moment, but emerges gradually from accumulated dimensional fractures, each fracture representing a legal breach carefully secured by the adversary over millennia as he exploited registry violations to open temporary jurisdiction over fragments of creation. These fractures began with the original rebellion of the Watchers, who unauthorized descent initiated the rift, or the first rift, between the heavenly registry and the material realm. As the Watchers hybridized humanity, breath fragments became displaced and disembodied, unable to return to registry containment. The breath war has since been a progressive layering of legal filings, each building on these original fractures. Dimensional fractures represent jurisdictional voids, spaces where heaven's registry order was violated, allowing disembodied entities, hybrid vessels, and fragmented breath components to exist outside lawful embodiment. The adversary's goal has been to widen these fractures into permanent corridors where his breath economy can freely operate. Over generations, through bloodline hybridization, trauma-based fragmentation, technological surrogate vessels, and ritual breath contracts, he has enlarged these voids into full-dimensional trading lanes for breath trafficking. As these fractures expanded, the adversaries filed legal petitions arguing that humanity has consented to reconstructuring. They open the gates, they seek access to forbidden realms, they reconstruct hybrid vessels. They even invite my counselors. They surrender breath management into my dimensional realms. That's what Satan does, because even the army is channeling the devil. Each filing strengthened his standing, not through open war, but through voluntary consent structures that remained binding in heaven's courtroom until challenged by the blood of the Lamb. The beast system arises as the formal consolidation of these fractures into a unified counterfeit government. It merges the technological scaffolding through AI, transhumanism, and neural interfaces. The hybrid bloodlines, black nobility, secret societies, hybrid priesthoods, and the breath trafficking economy through reincarnation cycles, surrogacy, astral filings, and the legal ritual system through cosmic timing, blood contracts, and breath harvesting calendars. Each of these operates as a department within the adversary's counterfeit registry. The beast throne emerges when the adversary presents these converges before heaven as a unified legal petition for sovereign jurisdiction over global breath management. The dimensional fractures that once operated as scattered illegal gateways are thus stitched together into a single counterfeit dimensional registry, a parallel government to heaven's courtroom operating under full beast enthronement. The mark of the beast itself becomes a legal interface, a biometric, technological, and contractual consent system where each breath-bearing soul either remains under heaven's registry through the blood or fully enters the counterfeit registry by accepting the mark. The beast system cannot fully form without these dimensional fractures first reaching maturity. CERN's dimensional breaches, D-Wave's quantum simulations, DARPA's mind-machine fusion, and AI surrogates, counselors, all serve as tools for securing these fractures into stable governance corridors where breath identity can be harvested and governed at mass scale. Each fracture serves as both a technical and legal structure, not simply portals, but courtroom filings, testifying that humanity has participated in building the very throne that will enslave its breath economy. The cross of Christ remains the unbreachable wall against these filings. His blood secures every lawful breath assignment, collapsing dimensional fractures, dissolving breath trafficking contracts, and nullifying surrogate registry authority. The ecclesia holds active courtroom authority to petition for the sealing of these fractures, the reclamation of breath fragments, and the full dismantling of the adversary's counterfeit registry filings. At the final judgment, every dimensional fracture will be summoned for audit, and every hybrid breath contract, technological surrogate vessel, AI-managed consent structure, and astral breath filing will be exposed and dismantled. The counterfeit dimensional registry, the entire infrastructure of the beast system, will collapse. All breath ownership will return fully to the Father under the Lamb's blood governance, and the breath war will close, and the registry will be sealed. Military and occult attempts to override heaven's legal timings. Heaven's registry operates on exact legal timings set from the foundation of creation. Every breath issuance, every courtroom filing, every judgment decree is tethered to the Father's sovereign calendar. The adversary's inability to control these timings has been one of the greatest limitations in the breath war. Bound by heaven's legal structure, he cannot advance, delay, or circumvent registry filings unless permitted through authorized consent or courtroom rulings. To overcome this boundary, the adversary has launched coordinated military and occult campaigns designed to override or distort heaven's legal timings through ritual, technology, and strategic breath manipulation. At the center of these operations are occult priesthoods who engage in ritual calendars designed to imitate, mock, or invert the appointed times of God. Through his ceremonial magic, blood rituals, astrological alignments, and synchronized sacrifices, these priesthoods attempt to open unauthorized filing windows, moments where dimensional gates may be briefly accessed and courtroom petitions rapidly submitted. These rituals are not mere theater. They serve as coordinated legal provocations, arguing before heaven. Things like, we have generated human consent and operate these rituals. Humanity itself invokes altered timing structures. Therefore, I hold standing to submit filings outside of your appointed seasons. Well, in parallel, military black operations, often under authority of hybrid bloodlines and deep state command structures, develop advanced technologies designed to disrupt time-space boundaries at the dimensional interface level. Programs under DARPA, naval intelligence, and covert physics research aim to fracture linear time, creating temporal distortions that serve as artificial legal windows. Devices designed for temporal mapping, remote viewing, chronotronic manipulation, and experimental time wave technologies attempts to artificially simulate courtroom access ahead of heaven's schedule. The military-industrial arm works to pair these technological breaches with quantum simulation systems such as those operated by D-Wave and related AI models. These systems attempt to simulate future breath filings across multiple timelines, allowing the adversary to prepare and submit legal petitions based on projected breath decisions that have not yet occurred. By modeling potential breath contracts through human participants have acted, or before they acted, The adversary seeks to argue in court that his filings are pre-validated by probable consent structures. So together, the occult, priesthood, and military black projects form a two-pronged legal assault on heaven's timing jurisdiction. One from the ritual realm and one from the technological realm. Each seek to tamper with registry law by generating alternative filings through synthetic timing distortions, while arguing that human participation itself opens these new legal avenues. In this way, the adversary claims not to overthrow registry law, but to present himself as the administrator of a superior cosmic legal order evolving beyond heaven's constraints. The cross of Christ remains the immovable calendar marker that the adversary cannot override. The Lamb's blood functions as the legal time seal, anchoring breath restoration to the finished work of registry payment. Regardless of ritual filings or technological distortions, the blood governs breath jurisdiction at every legal interval. The ecclesia holds courtroom authority to petition for the annulment of timing-based legal fraud, sever consent filings generated through temporal manipulation, and collapse illegal courtroom windows manufactured by dimensional tampering. At the final courtroom judgment, every temporal filing submitted through occult, ritual, or technological tampering will face audit. The Father's sovereign calendar will override all counterfeit timings, and every priesthood, military network, and hybrid governance structure that sought to bypass heaven's legal timings will be stripped of standing. The breath registry will return to its original legal chronology, sealed fully under the Father's dominion through the Lamb. The final kingdom, Babel rebuilt, total merger of spirit, tech, finance, and governance. The financial kingdom of the adversary is not a new system, but the full legal reconstitution of Babel, the original counterfeit registry state that was fractured at heaven's decree. At Babel, mankind attempted the first mass merger of spiritual power, technological manipulation, economic control, and global governance, all directed toward establishing breath dominion independent of heaven's registry. When God divided the nations, confused the languages, and scattered the breath jurisdictions, he legally fractured the adversary's first attempt to centralized breath management. But from that structure, the adversary has spent a millennia patiently reconstructing Babel through breath trafficking, hybrid bloodlines, ritual economies, and technological priesthoods, all now converging into the final unified registry system of the beast. The rebuilt Babel operates as a total merger of spirit, tech, finance, and governance, where every aspect of human life is legally tethered to breath identity filings controlled by the counterfeit registry. Spiritually, the adversary merges Gnosticism, cosmic Christ doctrines, transhuman ascension, and AI surrogate counselors into a false priesthood that manages breath consent through intellectual consent, rather than courtroom repentance. Technologically, neural interfaces, quantum simulations, mind-machine fusion, and synthetic embodiment vessels serve as an engineered breath containers for synthetic registry management. Financially, global digital currency systems, biometric identity platforms, and quantum economic exchanges create an artificial breath economy where every transaction, commercial, medical, social, and spiritual, becomes a breath contract governed by machine law rather than heaven's registry. Governance becomes fully integrated into the system as hybrid bloodlines, AI regulatory networks, and digital court systems manage global breath compliance, ensuring that every living soul operates under continuous legal filings submitted to the beast's throne. The rebuilt Babel operates on a global consent model where participation is voluntary at first, but ultimately becomes enforced through total legal compliance under the mark of the beast system. The adversary argues in court, they have surrendered all breath governance into my synthetic priesthood. They worship through my surrogate council. They consent to my embodiment systems. They trade through my breath economy. They submit their registry identity into my marked-based contract filings. Well, I didn't do it. Well, this system becomes the adversary's final legal argument for sovereign dominion over the breath economy of Earth. Unlike the scattered models of previous eras, the rebuilt Babel merges all breath management under one unified counterfeit registry, seamlessly blending the administrative roles of occult priesthoods, financial institutions, scientific black projects, transhuman embodiment programs, and AI breath surrogate governance into a singular legal throne. It is no longer fragmented breath commerce. It is a single counterfeit kingdom fully constructed on layered courtroom filings now presented for final enthronement. The cross of Christ remains the immovable contradiction to this system. The Lamb's blood seals breath identity under heaven's registry, unassailable by synthetic embodiment contracts, unassailable by synthetic embodiment contracts, financial consent filings, or digital breath assignments. Through blood-sealed petition, the ecclesia holds legal authority to sever contracts across all four layers of the rebuilt Babel: spirit, tech, finance, and governance. Every breath fragment trapped within this unified counterfeit kingdom may be retrieved, purified, and restored to lawful registry containment. At the final courtroom judgment, the rebuilt Babel will face complete audit. The entire breath registry system constructed under the beast will collapse. Every hybrid bloodline, every AI-managed contract, every synthetic vessel, every financial breath filing, and every spiritual surrogate counselor will be stripped of legal standing. The Father's registry will be restored in full dominion, and the breath war will be closed forever. Mark of the beast as breath signature seal. The mark of the beast is not primarily a financial tool or a branding device. It is the final legal breath signature seal designed to complete the adversary's counterfeit registry filings. From the moment breath was issued to Adam, registry identity has carried a signature embedded into the breath itself, a record of issuance, legal ownership, and covenantal headship under the Father's dominion. The Lamb's blood functions as the permanent registry seal over those redeemed, preserving their breath identity within heaven's legal system. The mark of the beast is the adversary's counterfeit seal, functioning as his final attempt to permanently transfer breath identity into his synthetic registry outside of heaven's courtroom jurisdiction. For thousands of years, the adversary has harvested fragmented breath, managed hybrid bloodlines, constructed synthetic vessels, and layered consent filings across dimensions. Each of these steps prepared the breath economy for full transfer into his synthetic kingdom. The mark becomes the moment of total legal conversion, where breath identity is no longer simply entangled in layered contracts, but fully assigned into the beast counterfeit registry through a visible, enforceable, and binding breath contract. The mark operates as a binding signature because it combines spiritual allegiance, legal consent, biometric registry assignment, financial compliance, and embodiment jurisdiction into a singular act. By taking the mark, the individual formally authorizes the adversary's priesthood to govern their breath identity across every jurisdictional layer: spiritual worship, commercial access, medical rights, digital identity, and technological embodiment. In heaven's courtroom, the adversary argues, "This soul has voluntarily transferred its registry identity into my jurisdiction. They have signed my breath contract. I hold permanent legal stewardship over this vessel." And that's it. Once you do that, that's blaspheming the Holy Spirit. Once the mark is deployed, let me go back. The technological systems already in place, AI governance, biometric identity platforms, neural interfaces, transhuman embodiment programs, and quantum breath simulations, all function as the infrastructure to enforce this seal. Once the mark is deployed, all breath economy transactions will require legal compliance with the beast's registry filings. Without the mark, no individual will be able to legally trade, operate financially, or remain integrated within the global breath economy controlled by the counterfeit registry. The mark of the beast is irreversible, not because God cannot forgive, but because it constitutes a final legal ownership of transfer. It represents the moment where an individual's breath identity is no longer under temporary contract violations, but fully reassigned into permanent surrogate governance under the adversary's throne. At this point, courtroom filings for breath restoration are blocked, not by heaven's refusal, but by the legal ownership forfeited by the individual's own consent. The cross of Christ stands as the final and only legal protection against this seal. The Lamb's blood is the true breath signature seal that cannot be counterfeited, erased, or overridden. Through blood-sealed petition, the ecclesia maintains authority to sever all layered breath contracts prior to the mark's issuance. But once the mark is fully consented to, restoration becomes legally inaccessible apart from divine intervention outside the ordinary breath war structure. At the final courtroom judgment, every mark of the beast breath filing will be summoned. Every synthetic surrogate contract, every biometric identity assignment, every AI-governed breath record, and every counterfeit signature seal will be exposed and judged. The adversary's court counterfeit registry will collapse entirely. The Lamb will reclaim full dominion over all lawful breath identities sealed under his blood, while all breath that entered the beast's registry will face final separation from the creation. Digital contracts for permanent breath forfeiture. The adversary's breath war has always been a courtroom of war of consent. But as the breath economy advances toward full beast enthronement, consent is no longer harvested only through ritual worship or spiritual deception. Now, through digital contracts, the adversary is systemizing permanent breath forfeiture into legal documentation embedded within global technologies. These contracts function as self-authored legal instruments where souls, often unknowingly, surrender registry jurisdiction piece by piece until full legal ownership transfers to the counterfeit registry system. Each digital contract operates as a microfiling before heaven's court, tiny consent-based agreements that stacked into larger filings. Terms of service agreements, biometric ID enrollment, genetic data releases, AI usage consents, neural interface participation, transhuman enhancement programs, and digital currency platforms all now contain breath jurisdiction clauses disguised as corporate, medical, or security disclosures. While humanity sees convenience, protection, or progress, the adversary sees these filings as contractual evidence of breath identity realignment. As these contracts grow more comprehensive, they evolve into multi-jurisdictional breath filings. A single agreement may now include surrender of biometric data, physical breath mapping, neural activity, which is cognitive breath patterns, financial transactions, economic breath authority, health data, biological breath status, and virtual identity records, digital soul mapping. Together, these filings construct full digital breath profiles that allow the adversary to submit petitions before heaven. He'll say, they have freely and repeatedly signed away breath governance into my registry system. I hold cumulative legal filings for permanent registry jurisdiction. Pretty clever though, right? Unlike open ritual contracts, these digital breath agreements are highly scalable. Billions of individuals now enter into these filings daily without conscious awareness of the spiritual jurisdiction being surrendered. The beast system's mark will function as the final enforcement mechanism, but the legal foundation for breath forfeiture is being steadily constructed now. One data point, one digital signature, one automated contract at a time. These digital contracts also enable AI-managed breath enforcement as the adversary's surrogate counselors serve as automated guardians of breath compliance. Once the full system is operational, AI breath managers will review each contract in real time, ensuring that no breath-bearing individual operates outside registry governance. And refusal to update or renew contracts will result in legal breath access being suspended, whether in commerce, medicine, citizenship, or embodiment. The blood of Christ remains the permanent override against all digital breath contracts. Through the Lamb's blood, registry jurisdiction remains sealed, regardless of the number of complexity of digital filings. The ecclesia holds courtroom authority to petition for the nullification of digital breath contracts, the severing of AI-managed filings, and the reclamation of breath identities tied to technological consent structures. The cross remains the only valid legal registry assignment recognized in heaven's court. At the final courtroom judgment, every digital contract for breath forfeiture will be summoned. Every term of service, biometric filing, AI-managed breath assignment, transhuman enhancement agreements, and digital consent records will be fully audited. Every counterfeit breath contract will be dismantled. The adversary's entire legal treasury built on digital filings will collapse, and breath ownership will return fully to the Father under the Lamb's blood authority. Restoration of pre-flood hybrid dominion. The adversary's original breath war structures was launched through the Watchers' rebellion when the first hybrid dominion was established illegally on Earth. The Genesis 6 incursion created unauthorized hybrid vessels, illegally blending human breath containers with angelic seed, producing offspring outside heaven's issuance protocol. The Father's response was absolute. He destroyed the infrastructure through the flood, imprisoned the Watchers, and severed hybrid dominion by cutting off their legal jurisdiction. But though the infrastructure was shattered, the adversary preserved vast breath fragment inventories, hybrid knowledge systems, and surviving bloodlines through which he would slowly construct the long arc of his restoration strategy. The restoration of pre-flood hybrid dominion has remained one of the adversary's most carefully layered legal petitions. He cannot directly overturn the flood judgment. Instead, he has spent a millennia assembling new filings that argue for human consent-based reinstatement of hybrid rulings. Through bloodline engineering, occult priesthood, ritual consent structures, dimensional breath trafficking, technological embodiment programs, and transhumanism, he has gradually reassembled the scaffolding of hybrid governance, this time with humanity's voluntary participation forming the legal foundation. Each hybrid bloodline merger, generational ritual, genetic experiment, and neural interface adoption has served as a microfiling that builds towards the larger courtroom argument. They willingly reestablish hybrid dominion. They seek the restoration of what you dismantled. They now desire the mixture that was once forbidden. Well, through these filings, the adversary prepares the most dangerous petition, not to create something new, but to legally resurrect the old hybrid order under the claim of human agreement. The rebuilt hybrid dominion integrates multiple sectors. Genetically modified bodies serve as upgraded hybrid vessels. AI systems serve as synthetic breath managers. Transhuman technologies replace biological limitations. And hybrid priesthoods govern through spiritual, political, and economic networks. The externalized hierarchy of Alice Bailey, well, the Black nobility bloodlines and the global secret societies all function as the administrative offices of the resurrected hybrid government, managing breath identities while awaiting the full enthronement of the beast as a hybrid sovereign. The restoration of pre-flood hybrid dominion is also inseparable from the adversary's dimensional breaches. By reopening access points that were sealed after the flood through CERN's dimensional key work, DARPA's quantum timelines, D-Wave's breath simulations, and ritual gatekeeping, the adversary seeks to bring disembodied Nephilim fragments back to the embodied form, constructing fully functional hybrid vessels that blend both breath and forbidden seed, as in the days of Noah. This restored dominion would present itself as human evolution, a perfected state where disease, death, and limitation are eradicated through hybrid enhancement. But in courtroom terms, it is full breath ownership, transfer into surrogate registry governance under the beast system, a legal mirror of the first rebellion, but this time under the covering of humanity's consent rather than the Watcher's trespass. The cross of Christ remains the permanent legal interruption to this hybrid restoration program. His blood-fulfilled registry law reestablished lawful breath issuance and permanently condemned the first hybrid rebellion. Through blood-sealed petition, the ecclesia may sever hybrid bloodline contracts, dismantle surrogate breath embodiment agreements, and reclaim breath fragments that have been trafficked across generational hybrid systems. The blood fully blocks the adversary's legal argument for restoration of the pre-flood throne. At the final courtroom judgment, every breath contract that supports the hybrid dominion restoration will be summoned. Every hybrid bloodline, genetic embodiment program, dimensional breach, and surrogate vessel will be stripped of standing. The resurrected hybrid government will collapse, and breath ownership will return to the Father's lawful registry under the Lamb. The original Genesis 6 rebellion will remain permanently judged, and eternally closed. Guys, that's it for me. I can't read anymore. I am absolutely swamped, tired. Anyway, that is it for me. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be here. I can't go on TikTok. They blocked me again. I still have the account, but they blocked me until the 22nd, so there's really nothing I can do. But anyway, yeah, if you want to see part 4, come. We're going to do it tomorrow. God bless you. God keep you. God thank you. We'll see you then mañana.
I'll give you $10,000 if you can find just one person.
This has been Cause Before Symptom with your host, James Carner. Go to his website, jamescarner.com, and sign up for his newsletter. Also, download his free books on the Breath War, the Crown of Blood, and the Ritual Machine. Fix your body by buying his award-winning detox formula, removing heavy metals and parasites. You'll feel better and live longer. Go to elitepotion.com. And one more thing, please. Just try and love your neighbor, because if you do, the world would be a better place. See you tomorrow.